Simply Tammy.
It's a blessing that I'm here, I'm alive. No, I never ever have to cry, cause it's something I know will always work for me on my side. Not a thing I even have to fight, All things work together for my good. Life speaks if you listen, it might be sound. Watch the love come alive. Sharing the truth that inspires, Sharing the truth that inspires, Sharing the truth that inspires. All things work together for my good. Life speaks if you listen, it might be sound. Watch the joy come alive, watch the joy come alive. Sharing the truth that inspires.
Inspired to love, inspired to grow, inspired to heal, inspired to live. Simply Tammy.
Hello, and welcome back for another episode of the Simply Tammy Show. You're in store for another Life Speak segment where we meet some amazing people who have stories of divine providence. And I have such a beautiful spirited woman here with me tonight that I am excited for you to meet and learn more about. She's a business owner of several businesses here in the upstate of Greenville, South Carolina. And without further ado, help me welcome to the Simply Tammy Show, Mrs. Essence Pugh.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for saying yes.
Yes.
So we're going to jump right in.
Absolutely.
So outside of your bio, who would you say that Essence is?
So Essence is a wife, a mother, and those titles are so important to me. So those things come first. I am a huge advocate and just passionate about people. And, you know, when you think about the work that I do, it ties right into kind of my purpose and my life skill. Is he's aligned it so well so that I get to impact people's life every single day in a positive way.
Oh, wow. So before we get into all of the amazing things that you do now and how you got there, what did little Essence dream of?
You know, so honestly, when I went to school to be a scientist.
Okay.
A scientist. And so I just always like chemistry. I like mixing things and seeing reactions. And so kind of similar to what I do now. I still like to put things together and see a reaction, but it's just on a different realm.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow. So how did you transition from wanting to be a scientist to being events planner, florist, facility owner, all the things you do? When did that transition?
Well, honestly, I was in the workplace for many years. So I've been working since I was 15 years old. And when I came home from school, I started working in kind of call center world. And so I kind of climbed up the corporate ladder there. And I was in banking and I made it to a VP level. And then my husband's job was transferring to Georgia. Okay. And so I was kind of met at a place where I either had to make a decision on, you know, is our whole family going to relocate to Georgia because we weren't in that footprint, the company that I worked for. And if I did that, then what did that look like? And so I had been with that organization for right about 10 years. And so, of course, I made a decision to move to Georgia. And it was a very difficult decision because at that time I was kind of walking away from what I knew of going to work every day and, you know, having the footing of, you know, just having responsibilities outside of just the household. And so I was a stay-at-home mom for the time that I was there. And, you know, my family is all in the upstate. Okay. So our support system was here. My mom, my grandmother, my aunts, you know, everybody was here. And so I just felt like we didn't necessarily have the support system. So my husband asked me, he was like, Essence, what do you want for Christmas? And I was like, I want to go home.
Oh.
I want to go home. And so with that, though, in the middle of that, we were going back and forth from South Carolina to Georgia and back and forth and pretty much every weekend because we were doing events. And so I know you sent me some questions and things, and I was thinking about how.
So you were living in Georgia but doing events here in South Carolina on the weekends?
Every weekend.
So when did you first start doing events? Like, was it at what point?
So I was doing events. I've been doing events for the past 16 years, and I've always been kind of that point of contact for my family to do like birthday parties, baby showers, but not on the scale that we do it on now.
Right.
And so my husband and I were laughing the other day. I was looking back at one of my baby showers. I was like, why couldn't I be like doing what I'm doing now when we planned it? But, you look at it and you laugh and you kind of grow from it. But, I was just kind of thinking about like how divine and how aligned God is in everything that we do. I remember I kind of got my footing under me when I first moved to Georgia. I was like, okay, well, what do I do now?
Right.
I was like, I have the event planning company. I was like, I need to network and mingle and mix with people out here. And I was looking online for a virtual office or an office that I could go to and kind of have a shared space with people and not necessarily have the full overhead or responsibility.
Right.
And so I was looking online. I was looking at Craigslist at the time, and there was a listing, but the listing showed Simpsonville, South Carolina. And I was like, wow, I know I have it set. You know how you have the area set?
Right.
And I was like, I know I have it set for Northern Georgia or, Gwinnett County.
Right.
And so I scrolled and I was like, Darius, look at this. And he was like, that's crazy. Why is that listed? And I was like, we need to go look at this space. He was like, well, why are we looking at the space if we live down here?
Right.
And that ended up being our first venue, a Touch of Essence event venue.
Really?
And what's so crazy is the lady that they didn't even have it listed. And she was like, well, where did you see this? Because the lady just moved out of this space. And I said, well, I saw it on Craigslist. She said, that's interesting. We don't even use Craigslist as a marketing. We haven't even listed this anywhere.
Wow.
She was like, well, because I believe that this is divine, I'm going to hold this for you for a couple of days and let y'all see what you want to do. And
wow.
it has been.
And that was before you even decided to move back here?
Yes. So that's why we were going back and forth, because we had the new venue.
Wow.
But we lived in Georgia.
Oh, wow.
So we were commuting back and forth every weekend. The kids and I would come up on Friday, and we would come back on Sunday, sometimes Monday morning. So it was a lot.
Oh, wow. So you've already kind of start sharing some of that, and you alluded to this in the beginning. When you consider all that you do right now, if you had to define your purpose and wrap it up in what you do, what do you feel your purpose is?
So my purpose is to make an impact on people's life in a positive way.
Okay.
That just sums it up, right?
Okay.
So regardless if it is events, it is making a positive impact, making their load a lot lighter, pulling them all together. Sometimes, when people are planning a wedding, or we doing bereavement florals, if they planning a funeral, to have a company to come into play and it's experts and know what they're talking about and can lighten the load and help and guide them is a ministry in itself.
Absolutely.
And you know that you can trust them, that they're going to deliver.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we know that on the outside looking in, things look glamorous. It's like, oh, you snap your fingers and everything is easy. But for you to, one, transition from what your original desire was and then to start building business, can you kind of walk us through the process of becoming, what was it like first becoming a business owner, acquiring location number one, and I think you guys are up to now 3 locations and a floral shop? So can you kind of give maybe some highlights of the process of what was that like to go from stay-at-home mom to business owner, first location, and now multiple locations?
Absolutely. So, honestly, God has been with us every step of the way, and I genuinely believe that everything has been divinely ordered for us. Even like I just shared the story with the Touch of Essence venue, I'm very tuned into what God is saying to me. And so I'm listening and I'm seeing opportunity. And so when he presents us with an opportunity, it's kind of like he's telling us, what are you going to do with this? Because I've lined it up for you. Even with our space at Infinity Ballroom, we had been looking for a space for 3 years. Nothing was ironing out. Now, God already told me about Infinity Ballroom, which is why I was looking for a space. But we just happened to be kind of riding around. Our realtor seen the space, and he was like, well, what do you guys think about this? And I'm like, walking through it, I'm like, yeah, I can see it. Like, I envision it, you know, and lining it up, but it's just like everything was like put in front of us to walk right into the door.
Oh, wow.
And then, you know, it wasn't that we weren't met with any opposition, because there was plenty of opposition throughout. You know, anytime the Lord gives you something to do, the enemy is trying to make sure that he distracts you and puts everything in place to ensure that it doesn't come to pass, but you just got to stay diligent on it. And so, you know, when I think about all the steps that we took, it was just really being obedient, listening, praying through, right, and knowing that it's all going to come to pass, because this is what he told us to do. So even when it looked like it wasn't going to be, we just stayed the course.
Right.
Stayed the course.
Right. So one of the things you said, and I've had another guest mention the same thing, and I know for myself, when God speaks, sometimes we hear what seems like an audible voice of God. Sometimes we'll see something. Sometimes in a conversation, somebody will say something that resonates with your spirit. So when God speaks to you about business, what does that usually look like or sound like for you?
It's very audible. I can hear him clearly. You know, I was thinking, I was actually on another like podcast yesterday, and we were talking about how God is very strategic in everything that he does. And so I was talking about during the pandemic, how we even got to the flower shop. So the flower shop just opened in 2024 this year. Well, really the end of last year, but beginning of this year, we really started like rolling it out. But we started doing florals. I took my first floral class in 2018. And God told me then that we want to have a flower shop. So just think about the span of time that we've had. But then 2019 is when, you know, I was kind of trying to figure out the florals. I was doing style shoots and doing my events with fresh florals. But then 2020 hit and the pandemic happened.
Right.
And so our venues, we weren't able to have events because we were shut down.
Right.
And I heard God clear as day. I was like, Lord, what are we going to do? I was praying. I was like seeking him. I was like, what are we going to do? These venues can't have people in it. Like, you know, we got to have events in order to pay the bills, you know.
Right, right.
He was like, don't you know how to make flowers? So just think if I hadn't been obedient in 2018 and took that first
class.
floral class, right?
Yeah.
So then we started doing hand deliveries to doors, florals, right? And that's really what pushed us into the floral aspect.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, and I know, you know, I've used your floral business, beautiful arrangements. So as you are building business, you're a wife, you're a mother, and, you know, you're a woman, you know, before all of that, an individual, what are some of the pain points that you've had to grow through, either in business, in family, in your personal journey? Because, you know, we all have those moments that it's like, okay, God, I can go somewhere and sit down and we can press pause on all this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So have you had some notable pain points that made you say, Lord?
Absolutely. So I think it's just all about balancing everything, right? We do so much from, you know, being parents to...
Hey, just for a moment, I wanted to interrupt you. So no, the video has not messed up. This is an intentional interruption. Just for me first to say thank you, because if you've gotten to this point, that means you're still watching this interview, and hopefully you're hearing some things that are helping you, encouraging you, inspiring you. But I thank you for taking the time to listen, to get to know some of these amazing people, and to be encouraged and inspired by their stories. Second of all, I want to give you an opportunity to partner with me. If there is something that you think you can offer to this platform, either hands-on if you're local to the Greenville area, if you know some guests that you think I should interview, Or if you see the transitions that we've gone through from when I started with Women Who Win and now doing this in my own space, and you say, I want to support that vision, I want to give to it, we welcome any type of support that you have to give. We also are going to have opportunities for organizations and businesses. You don't have to be local to Greenville, but we can spotlight you during our show segments. If any of that sounds interesting to you and you want to participate, shoot me an email. I'm going to put the email address on the screen, and I want to give you all of the information on how you can partner and connect so that we can keep bringing these people before you, sharing their amazing stories, offering them a safe space to share their journeys and to also help encourage you along yours. So thank you again for listening, and now back to this interview.
The business aspect, and seeming like sometimes it's just so overwhelming, you know, to hear your kids say, well, you're always gone on Saturdays or you're always gone on the weekends, and that's the only time that we're out of school, you know, and like trying to balance that out, or having a client that wants to speak to you at 12 o'clock at night and texting you all the time, right? And just finding the balance in all of that to make sure that you have peace and that you have, you know, time for yourself, time for your family, time for your spouse. Like, it's just all about balance. And so that is kind of where, you know, I think I've named this year my year of balance. And I thank God for that, because he's allowed us to have so many opportunities, but everything is just balancing out, leveraging the team and utilizing our resources, and drawing lines and setting boundaries to say, you know, I'm not available.
Yes.
And it's okay.
Yes.
Right. And being at complete peace about that. And that's for work as well as for home. If I'm home and I'm doing something, you know, I may not be accessible.
Right.
And having that time for myself to kind of space that out.
So when you are not being wife, mommy, business owner, what is it that you like to do for yourself to steal away so that you can show up in those roles 100%?
So I love to get massages. I love to relax. We have a massage therapist that comes to our home.
Okay.
And so that's like my favorite daytime. I'm like, thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
So that, as well as I love to shop. I love to travel. I love to eat. So like those, if you give me like a massage, eating, traveling, shopping, I'm like living my best life.
Okay. So outside of your business endeavors, and I know you mentioned you're passionate about being a wife and a mom, are there any other things that pull at Essence's heart that you're passionate about?
So I would say just being a good person or being a good friend. I love to volunteer. I love to get involved in the community. I just like to see what's going on and see where I can support and what I need to do. But outside of like necessary roles, I just like being a great friend, being a support system to people, a listening ear. And I have a great friend group, a great sister group that we constantly are in communication. And so they kind of keep me going and keep that positive energy going at all times. So
mentioning great friends and sister group, I know, I don't know how many years, but the Rouge Ball, am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Didn't just want to call it the Red Ball. So what was the inspiration behind that and the inception of that?
Yes, so it started in 2020 where we, you know, everybody was shut down in the pandemic. And again, God spoke to me and said, you know, people need to know that they can live again.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, we can't have this many people coming together and it's still COVID. Like, it's still out here, you know, and that was an obedience thing because I still went with it and kind of let him guide me along the way of what that looked like, and utilizing the necessary precautions. But it was based off of so many people were in a state of depression, or so many people were just like sad and just feeling like we're never going to get back to a sense of normalcy. And so that was a bold statement, like a slap in the devil's face, you know, to let them know we're not going to be here forever. And so we're going to enjoy this time that we're going to have together and celebrate the wins that we had, because a lot of people had a lot of losses in 2020. And so that's what that was birthed out of.
Okay.
And so we're still carrying on every year. And it's just a moment for women to come together and just celebrate and understand that there's so much more and there's always going to be tomorrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So has there ever been a time when Essence wanted to quit? And and
Quit at 2 o'clock in the morning doing an event setup. Yes.
What initiated that feeling, and then what pulled you out of that feeling?
Yes. So number one is my purpose. Like, it's in me. I can't get away from it. I can't leave it, But I think when there's times where we have so much on our plate and there's so many things to do and it feels overwhelming, that's when you want to kind of digress and go in a corner and like, no, I don't want to do this anymore, right? And so that has been a time where, I've said, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I've been up for more than 24 hours at this time, like, is this worth it,
Right.
But then when I get to see a family come together that hasn't been together in years and they're celebrating the birth of a new child, or I'm able to be a part of a wedding day and they are so elated and their mother and father hadn't been in the same room in 30 years, but they are getting along or, being cordial in the same setting, that's a blessing to me because we were able to create an atmosphere that allowed for these things to take place.
Yeah, yeah. So when you talk about creating atmospheres, and of course I've been to events that you have planned and did the decor for, what is your imagery process? Do you see it in your head?
Oh,
do you
gosh.
sit down and start drawing things out, or do you have to go into a space and you start envisioning things in the space?
So I listen to the client, right? So I'm listening to them. I'm listening to their experience. I'm listening to why it's important to them. I'm listening to, how they want the flow of everything to be. I'm asking questions. So like as they're speaking, it's like I can see it clear as day of what they are describing. And so then I'm able to just kind of map it out and I create a design board. And with that design board, I showcase that to them. But when they walk into the event, they're like, oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Like, what is this? This is bananas, right?
Yeah.
So, that is the goal. Like, I genuinely love to have that reaction where they are blown away and they can't believe it.
Yeah.
And then they have the peace of mind of knowing they can have the event and the event is more than what they expected.
Right, right. So over the years with your business, how have you made decisions on who you would partner with in business and who you would not?
I've had some lessons learned, but, in decision making, I'm very particular about who I partner with. I'm very particular now about who we associate with and put our name with. And in the past, I was more lenient on that, and it was just because I wanted, people have a good face, right, and say all the things, right, but they know that we are doing so many events. So sometimes people have a motive, behind wanting to connect versus it just being a genuine connection. And so now I'm big on making sure that I pray, making sure that Darius and I have conversation around, what does this partnership look like, making sure that it's very clear and black and white as far as in what does this include.
Exactly.
And making sure that nobody is confused on what's happening.
Right, right.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Keeping it legal.
Exactly.
Put it all in writing.
Absolutely.
So when I think about Life Speaks, for me, 7 years ago, I published my first book under that name, but it came from God showing me how he orchestrates things in my life. And you've shared a moment like that with us with the first building. But I always like to ask, do you have any other notable moments where I couldn't have wrote this, I couldn't have made this up, this was all God's doing, and I couldn't have put any touch on it? Do you have any other
Our entire life has been that way. Our entire you know, I even think back to before Darius and I met, we worked at the same place. He worked on the second floor, I worked on the third floor. And I just think about how God is so strategic in just even allowing us, because I remember one time, and he'll laugh at this, but when I was, we were walking up the stairs, he was coming up the stairs, I was coming down the stairs, and I just felt this like who is that? Like, what's
And you
going
didn't
on?
even know him?
No, we just walked past each other, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And he was like, this weird lady, like, what's happening here? And then on top of that, we went to the same church. So we would always
know each other.
We would always cross. And so my mom, I remember my mom was like, you should really date this guy that I met. He does, you know, all these different things in business. And, you know, I just think he's a nice young man. I think you would really like him, Essence. Meanwhile, my aunt, who works in the bookstore, is having a conversation with him. Not my mom and my aunt not talking about this. So she's talking about me, right? So we at work passing each other and church passing each other. And, you know, my mom's trying to work it out on this end. My aunt's trying to work it out on that end. They don't know that they're talking about the same person. And so it just happened to be that, you know, he messaged me at work one day and through the messenger system.
So did he know who you were by then, or he was?
He knew who I was, but he was just kind of like, you know, hey, you know, happy birthday. And at this time, this is real old, we had MySpace. So my birthday showed up on MySpace.
Okay.
But it was the day after. So me being who I am, I was like, oh, well, thanks, but my birthday was yesterday. And he was like, oh, well, you should take me out for your birthday. And I was like, no, you can take me out. And so and we've been together really ever since.
Wow.
But it's so funny because my mom will laugh and she's like, it's really, truly God ordained because, you know, I remember when we, before we started dating, my best friend, she reminds me of this all the time. She's like, I know you genuinely prayed Darius in. Like, this is so crazy. Because I remember writing it out and I was like telling God, you know, I don't want to date anybody else until it's the person for me. And these are really some of the attributes that I would like to have.
Right.
And it's like, boom, 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 check, 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 check. But that really kicked off. And I knew it was God. I was like, this is so crazy.
Wow.
Like when he messaged me, I was like.
And you knew it was the guy from the stairwell when he.
Yep. I was like, what's going on?
Wow.
And then when my mom found out that he was who I had been talking to, because I was real like private, like not bringing nobody around. I don't want to do that. And so when she figured out that I was talking to him, she was like, oh, well, you may as well come on and go to dinner with us because I've been telling her to talk to you. And I was like, what? I'm like, I didn't know that's who you was talking about.
Wow.
The same thing when my aunt, she was like, you didn't know that was my niece? And he was like, no, it was crazy.
Wow.
So it's just everything in our life has been step by step, God just working it out and making it happen and making it very clear that it's him.
So were you raised in the church? Has God always been a part
Absolutely.
of your life? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
That is beautiful. Well, as we get ready to wrap up, one question I like to always ask my guests, because I love music. If you had to choose a song that describes this season of your life, what song?
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Let me think. Let me think. That's a good question. I'm trying to think of the song. It's Gonna Be Big.
Was it
Pastor
Mike Jr.?
Pastor Mike Jr.
Okay.
Yes.
Why that one?
You know, because I just think about, oftentimes people look at our life and they're thinking it's already as big as it's going to get. But God has already told us so much more. And so I just know that the next season and even in this season, it is about to really blow up.
Wow.
And so this song really resonate with me, and it really just makes my spirit just jump every time I hear that song.
Yeah.
So that is definitely the song that I would choose.
Yeah. So before I ask you to give some encouraging words to aspiring entrepreneurs, what ways, I know on social media you are a Touch of Essence events. Is that the main place to
Absolutely.
find you?
So Facebook, Instagram, We're on TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn. It's all A Touch of Essence events.
Okay. Okay. And you also do business coaching and consulting. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So is that also how they would contact you?
Absolutely.
For that? Okay.
Everything is under A Touch of Essence platform.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. So for anyone aspiring to get in business, male or female, any type of business, I would like for you to look at that camera and give them some words of inspiration, encouragement, process steps, whatever you feel led to share with anyone aspiring.
Absolutely. So I will share with you to not give up. Honestly, entrepreneurship is very difficult. You know, a lot of times people will highlight all the good things. Social media will confuse you. But there's going to be some really good times and there's going to be some challenging times. But you really have to lean into your faith and know that God gave you a vision. And if you're being obedient to what he said, then it will all come to pass. So don't give up.
That is amazing. And it's easy to want to press the pause button, especially when you feel like you have other options. It's like, okay, I can go back to a job or I can go back go back to being home. But like you said earlier, I love that you said it's in me. Yeah. And I can't do anything else.
Yes.
Yes, I love that. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
You've shared some amazing stuff, and I know that this segment is going to be an encouragement to others because it's oftentimes we hear what God is saying, but the process and the step to do it is the challenge. And to see that you can obey God and get the results, I think even beyond what we thought we were going to see.
Ever imagine. Ever imagine.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
definitely blows our mind. So thank you again, Essence, and thank you guys for watching. We will be back next week with another amazing guest, another amazing segment. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, don't forget to share. You can also connect with us on Instagram under the Simply Tammy Show, and also connect with A Touch of Essence events. She has 3 venues in the upstate that are available for rentals. She has a floral shop.
Yes.
She does event planning still.
Yes.
Do you still do rentals?
Yes.
Okay. So if you feel like you can do your own event but just need some things to help do them, she has rentals or event planning. She is a Jill of many trades, but very skilled and does it excellently. So if you visit her page on social media or visit her website, you'll see some of her work. I've been able to attend some of her events, and it is well above average in a class all by itself, how she takes a vision and brings it to life. So again, thank you, Essence,
Thank you
for joining
so
us.
much.
And thank you all for watching. Until next time.